Yeah.
Any particular advice for him?
Take it serious.
And yes, it's live globally on the biggest streaming platform in the world. My good old friends, Netflix, baby. You guys wanted me to go bigger? How about twice as big?
This is going to be the toughest fight of his career.
Sharp, relax.
The most embarrassing fight of his career.
Chair across your face.
Yeah, I think he's about to cry.
Mike Tyson just warned Jake Paul to back out of the Anthony Joshua fight. And if Jake ignores him, he's not just making a mistake, he's signing up for the most violent reality check of his life. Let's be real, this is a two-time heavyweight destroyer with nuclear knockout power facing a man who has never stood in front of a true monster like AJ. And at this point, the real story isn't just hype or headlines anymore. It's whether this fight is raw courage, pure delusion, or the most dangerously insane stunt boxing has ever put on a stage.
AJ is a knockout artist with fights that have literally ended in seconds. He's fought legends, Klitschko, Usyk, Ruiz, Ngannou.
Biggest shot I have seen live.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little scared.
Mike Tyson commented on Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua. He fired a warning shot straight through the entire boxing world. When Iron Mike says cancel the fight, he's not giving advice. He's predicting a disaster, and if Jake ignores him, he's basically volunteering for a collision with a heavyweight freight train. Tyson didn't sugarcoat anything. He told Jake straight, take it serious, or you're going to be greatly mistaken. That's not a suggestion. That's a man who's seen fighters get broken telling you a storm is coming, and this storm's name is Anthony Joshua.
You're gonna fight one of the absolute scariest knockout artists in the heavyweight division. The fact that Jake Paul wants to fight that guy, I'll watch. And if you want to show you're legit by taking on one of the scariest heavyweights alive, he's gonna be terrifying, and he's gonna have a lot to prove. He's going to be very angry that Jake Paul wants to fight him. Again, a guy who survived Usyk twice.
Because Tyson knows exactly what Jake is walking toward. Not a YouTuber showdown, not a crossover gimmick, but a 6'6" wrecking machine with nuclear punching power who has ended nights for men twice Jake's size and 10 times his experience. And Tyson's own mentality explains why he sees danger instantly. I'll fight anybody, I'll spar anybody, I'll fuck anybody up. That's real fighter DNA talking. That's the voice of a man who knows what happens when someone unprepared steps into the wrong ring with the wrong monster.
Jake Paul, he's set to face his toughest competition yet. He's going to face off against the former heavyweight champion, that would be Anthony Joshua. The fight's in Miami on December the 19th.
His biggest fear. Jake is bringing influencer confidence to a heavyweight execution chamber. Anthony Joshua isn't Nate Robinson, he isn't Tyron Woodley, and he isn't some semi-retired MMA fighter holding mitts for paychecks. AJ is a world-class destroyer, and Tyson thinks Jake might not survive long enough to even land a clean shot. And here's the brutal truth Tyson sees that Jake doesn't. The same wild confidence that made Jake famous could be the exact thing that gets him knocked unconscious. Because in heavyweight boxing, charging forward with ego is the fastest way to get sent into another dimension.
The heavy favorite against Paul. And that's understandable because Joshua he's only 35 years old, and Jake Paul has not fought young guys before, he's fought older guys. So you think he's going to win?
That's why Tyson's warning shook the entire boxing world. He wasn't laughing, he wasn't hyping, he wasn't selling, he was warning. A legend telling Jake Paul that this fight isn't entertainment. This is danger with a price tag. People aren't calling this dangerous for clicks. They're calling it dangerous because weight classes exist for a reason, to stop fighters from getting seriously hurt. And this fight breaks every unwritten rule in the sport. It's a heavyweight monster versus a man who built his career punching people who were already on the way.
He's a top 10 heavyweight on the planet versus internet sensation, someone who's a latecomer to boxing and has boxed at a very moderate level. I'm talking domestic level, and he lost to Tommy Fury, for instance.
Some analysts didn't even bother being polite. They called it a gross mismatch, a bad joke, and even said it shouldn't be sanctioned anywhere in the world. That's not hate. That's people who love boxing begging the sport to protect itself from becoming a circus with hospital bills. And the warnings only get harsher from here. Words like dangerous, health in jeopardy, injury risk, and ambulance fight keep getting thrown around when multiple pros, real fighters say a man could get hurt badly, you stop laughing because they're not talking about losing a fight. They're talking about long-term damage.
Jake Paul for putting himself in harm's way, because boxing is a dangerous game. People have died in the ring. People have been seriously injured, maimed, and he believes in himself enough to do it on a massive scale, because it's not about the money. He's got enough money. This is him wanting to push the boundaries of reality. He's manifested an amazing life for himself. He's a superstar.
Some experts straight up said Jake Paul is walking into an execution, not a boxing match. They pointed out that AJ isn't a misfit boxer, isn't an influencer, isn't a retired MMA grappler. He's a two-time heavyweight champion with fists built to collapse ribs and end nights. And the idea of putting those hands on Jake Paul, they're calling it irresponsible. Before anyone even debates skill, let's start with the obvious. Jake Paul is not a heavyweight. Anthony Joshua isn't just bigger. He's a different species of fighter. At face-offs, Jake looks like a kid standing next to a Marvel supervillain. People described it as a bug on a windshield next to AJ's 6'6" frame. That's physics.
You say an insane challenge. You've described it before as Jake Paul being a cat versus Anthony Joshua's lion.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not equally matched on any sense, are they?
And this isn't just about height. Joshua is a natural 240, 245 pounds of muscle, precision, and championship experience. He knocks out men who walk around at 260 pounds. Meanwhile, Jake Paul has spent half his career fighting guys who were smaller, older, or straight up from the MMA world. That's not disrespect. That's the factual resume. But the real nightmare isn't the size. It's the power that comes with it. Joshua hits with the kind of force that shuts off lights, not metaphorically, literally shuts off consciousness. This is a man who sends trained heavyweights into survival mode with one clean shot. Now imagine Jake Paul, who struggled against a novice-level Tommy Fury, standing in front of that.
Jake Paul can come 15-20% in regards to Anthony Joshua. He's a completely different specimen. Look, you'll see what it looks like when they stand next to each other. And Anthony Joshua, he's not a bodybuilder, you know, he's a prime athlete. He's someone who's dedicated his life to this. He lives it. He doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. He's a real clean athlete who is going to inflict some horrendous damage to Jake Paul.
Then there's the experience gap, and it's not small, it's a canyon. AJ has fought legends, champions, giants, and killers. He has been in world title atmospheres, Olympic finals, and pressure cookers Jake can't even imagine. Jake, he's had around a dozen fights. No amateur background, no Olympic system, no elite gym wars against the top 10 heavyweights. He learned boxing on camera. AJ survived it in real life, and the danger from that gap is what scares experts the most. Jake isn't just facing a better boxer when he's facing decades of ring IQ, timing, footwork, setups, and traps that he has never seen before. One mistake from Jake against a real heavyweight puncher, and the night doesn't end with controversy. It ends with a medical team climbing into the ring.
I'm fighting Anthony Joshua.
No, look at my, oh no. Are you crazy? What the?
Are you scared?
No, I'm terrified.
Boxing has weight divisions for a reason. Boxing has matchmaking rules for a reason. And when almost every expert says this fight crosses those boundaries, they're not being dramatic, they're being honest. This is a mismatch in size, power, experience, and danger. And the people who truly understand boxing are terrified for Jake Paul. The scariest part of this entire situation, it's not just Mike Tyson sounding alarms. It's the entire boxing world lining up, one after another, practically begging Jake Paul to turn around before he becomes a highlight reel. When every expert is saying the same thing, you know the danger is real.
If he steps in with Anthony Joshua, and it's a proper fight and there's no restrictions or anything like that, he's going to get hurt. It is dangerous, it is bad for the sport, it should absolutely not happen. I know that the people will be saying, well...
Adam Catterall didn't tiptoe around it. He said Jake isn't just inexperienced. He's entering a fight so far above his level that it's basically malpractice. His words were brutal. If this is a proper fight with no circus rules, Jake Paul gets hurt, not loses, gets hurt. Carl Froch came in swinging with pure disrespect. He said Jake can't box, called him useless at AJ's level, and labeled the whole thing minimum risk, maximum reward for Joshua. Froch didn't even treat it like a competitive fight, more like a light workout with a giant paycheck attached.
I think Jake Paul finally realizes what he's got himself in for fighting Anthony Joshua. This is not going to go good for him. Every day that passes, it seems more and more like this fight is legit, and it's going to happen.
Ryan Garcia took a comedic approach, but it made the truth even harsher. He laughed. How do you go from 135 to 225? Jake winning a round or two, he said, would basically be a miracle. He straight up called this the worst fight Jake could have chosen. Then Johnny Nelson dropped one of the coldest lines ever. You can play football, you can play golf, you can't play boxing. He said Jake is crazy for thinking he can play with Anthony Joshua. According to Nelson, this fight gives AJ nothing to gain and gives Jake everything to lose, including teeth.
He's got 2 chances of winning that fight: slim hope and no hope. He, you know, he's obviously very delusional, and he's a legend in his own mind. You know, Anthony Joshua, when you look at his pedigree, he's a former Olympian, right? He's a 2-time world heavyweight champion.
Duke McKenzie skipped all the jokes and got straight to the point. He fears for Jake Paul. When seasoned former champions start expressing fear, not predictions, that's when things stop sounding like a fight and start sounding like a hospital briefing. Tommy Fury, the man who already beat Jake, went nuclear. He said, if I can beat Jake Paul, what the fuck do you think Anthony Joshua is going to do to him? Even his father joked AJ could beat Jake with his guarañas. They're not even pretending this is competitive.
Jake Paul is in danger, serious danger. I know you've heard it all before, but I could just reiterate what everybody else is saying. He's in serious danger of being seriously hurt.
Frank Warren gave Jake credit, but in the most unintentionally insulting way. He said Jake is trained, licensed, and knows exactly what danger he's walking into. Translation, Jake isn't stupid, he's just choosing to jump into the lion's den anyway. And Tony Bellew sealed it with the most brutal take of all. Gross mismatch. His health is in jeopardy. I'm not even entertaining it. Bellew doesn't say things lightly. If he thinks your life is on the line, you listen.
Dangerous, dangerous game. Your brain isn't supposed to rattle around in your head, particularly the way it's going to for Jake Paul when Anthony Joshua starts letting those punches fly. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be, I hope they've got some real good paramedics close by, because it could be that bad.
When this many fighters shout the same warning, it stops being an opinion. It becomes a prophecy, a flashing red sign, an omen. Jake Paul should not be fighting Anthony Joshua, period. Just when you think the entire world is screaming, Jake, run, a tiny, unbelievable minority steps out of the shadows and says the most shocking thing you could imagine. Jake Paul could knock out Anthony Joshua. And these aren't trolls. One of them is Tyson Fury himself. Yep, the heavyweight king, the gypsy king, the man who went to war with Wilder 3 times, casually said he thinks Jake Paul could KO AJ. He straight up called Joshua a spent force and said Jake is on the rise. It sounded less like an opinion and more like a dare spoken just to watch the world explode.
This is the biggest fight of my career. I'm walking into the lion's den. I'm doing something that no one else has ever done before.
And Fury wasn't joking. He actually praised Jake's new heavyweight size, his self-belief, and his punches. The same Jake Paul everyone else says might need a stretcher. Tyson Fury is telling people he might deliver the upset of the century. It's either genius trolling or the boldest prediction ever made.
Version of reality where Jake Paul somehow finds a way to win 1 round, let alone win the fight. You know, if there's a 1-minute section of the fight that Jake Paul does better than Anthony Joshua in, that's a win for Jake Paul. But that could be quickly overrid by the damage that's going to be inflicted to him.
And then there's this bizarre subset of analysts who think chaos is Jake's secret weapon. They say Paul is unpredictable, unorthodox, wild, exactly the kind of off-script fighter that can shock a mentally shaky heavyweight. They argue AJ's recent knockout loss and long layoff could make him vulnerable to a perfect storm, because every once in a while, boxing spits out a miracle no one saw coming. And that tiny sliver of unpredictability, that microscopic percentage, is the only only reason some people think Jake Paul might have a ghost of a chance. It's not logic, it's the chaos factor. The hope that Jake might land one perfect punch on a man with ghosts in his attic. This tiny minority isn't predicting skill, they're predicting madness. And that's exactly why this fight has the entire world glued to the screen.
The heavyweight?
Yes, the big boy.
No way, dude.
Yeah.
Are you for real?
I'm serious.
What's the world gonna say when you knock his ass out? Because it's gonna happen.
I know it's gonna happen too.
Jake Paul, excuse me.
Jay!
Who are you fighting, when, and why?
I'm fighting Anthony Joshua because I'm fucking him!
While Jake Paul is screaming confidence and chaos, Anthony Joshua is playing a completely different game. A colder, smarter, business-driven game. AJ doesn't even pretend this is his toughest fight. He openly jokes that it's either the toughest fight of his career or the most embarrassing. That's how little threat he sees in Jake Paul. And Eddie Hearn has been even more transparent. He said putting AJ in with Jake is completely mental, something they would never normally do. But Jake brings such insane commercial value that the fight instantly turns Joshua back into the hottest name in boxing. Translation, this isn't strategy, it's business. Pure, unapologetic business.
Jake Paul, as you can see here, he's a good boxer. I'm not saying he's a terrible boxer. It's the equivalent of a 100-meter race, and Anthony Joshua's runs around 10 seconds, and Jake Paul's done 12 and a half seconds. The chances of Jake winning that race, unless something dramatically terrible happens to Anthony Joshua.
AJ is coming off a brutal KO loss and a long layoff, carrying the psychological ghosts of that defeat. For him, Jake Paul is the perfect exorcism, a controlled demolition to rebuild confidence and prove he's still dangerous. But the risk is all reputational. Knock Jake out fast and nobody cares. Struggle even a little and everyone says AJ is finished. That's why he took the fight anyway. Not because Jake is a threat, but because Jake is a $50 million tune-up before the real battles AJ wants in 2026.
You know, up against the ropes with Anthony Joshua, unloading on him. It could be the end for him, literally. It could be his last day on earth.
Jake Paul isn't walking into this fight blind. He genuinely believes Anthony Joshua is beatable. In his mind, AJ is a fading heavyweight with a cracked chin, stiff movement, and a confidence problem ever since Dubois folded him. Jake sees vulnerability where the rest of the world sees danger, and Jake has receipts for his confidence. He points to AJ's last fight. The timing off, the reactions slow, the punches predictable. Jake watches that footage and doesn't see a monster. He sees a man he thinks he can clip the same way Dubois did. To him, AJ's decline is a roadmap, not a warning. Jake's belief is also fueled by something far bigger, the shortcuts this fight offers. Beat AJ, and Jake skips years of grinding, years of small fights, years of slowly climbing boxing's ladder. One punch, one upset, and he leapfrogs straight into boxing history as the man who shocked a heavyweight champion.
Down on Anthony Joshua, but we're talking about an Olympic gold medalist and two-time unified heavyweight champion of the world. Come on. It's disrespectful to the sport. It's like you're saying that lads, you play footy, right? It's like me, who plays for the Dog and Duck, saying that I can get on a pitch with you lads and run rings around you. Not a cat in hell's chance. It's never happening, is it?
And he's risking everything to take that shot. Jake accepted deals where AJ gets 99% of the money, leaving him with crumbs. Because he doesn't care about the purse. He cares about the moment, the legacy, the chance to finally shut up a world that has told him for years he's a joke. This is why Jake is so dangerous. Not because of his skill, but because he believes in this fight more than any sane man should. He's convinced he's walking into history, even if the rest of the world thinks he's walking into a knockout.
And how much does each fighter get?
They get a lot of money, as they should, because they're putting on a massive global event.
For Anthony Joshua, this fight is a money printer, but it's a reputation minefield. If AJ destroys Jake Paul in seconds, people shrug and say, well, obviously. There's no glory in smashing a cruiserweight influencer when you're a former unified heavyweight champion. But if Jake survives, or worse, makes AJ look even slightly uncomfortable, the boxing world will erupt. Critics will say AJ's washed, finished, no longer elite, A man cashing checks instead of chasing greatness. One slow round, one awkward exchange, and AJ's legacy takes a hit Jake can't even feel.
Business, money, all these types of things. Come on, man. There's a cut-off point at some point, isn't there? If he steps in with Joshua, Joshua will hurt him badly, and it will reflect badly on the sport. That is.
You don't think he's got the boxing IQ?
Have you seen it, mate? Listen, he stepped in with Tommy Fury, and Tommy Fury beat him, and Tommy Fury wouldn't win a British title. Come on, man. He's not at the level.
AJ isn't just fighting Jake, he's fighting pressure, pride, and the ghosts of his last knockout. At 35, coming off a long layoff and a brutal loss, every slow round and every awkward moment becomes a headline about decline. Meanwhile, Jake has nothing to lose, but AJ has his entire legacy on the line. And behind all that, a mountain of money. This fight is a $267 million spectacle, a business move dressed as a boxing match, a payday AJ wants before his real comeback in 2026.
This will be streamed live globally only on Netflix. It will be the biggest fight of the year, boxing or MMA. I don't think it will do the numbers that Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson did, which was 125 million global viewers, which is Super Bowl-esque type numbers, but it will be the biggest fight of the year.
This isn't an exhibition. It's a real fight with real danger. 10-ounce gloves, 8 rounds, knockouts on the record, and AJ capped at 245 pounds to make him even sharper. Rumors say Jake can't be KO'd early, adding a weird, scripted edge to the chaos. Then Tyson Fury throws gasoline on the fire by claiming Jake could knock AJ out, calling Joshua a spent force, and injecting the first hint of doubt into a fight everyone thought was predictable. So now we're left with pure madness. Jake walking into a demolition machine, AJ walking into a paycheck. And when the bell rings, only one question matters. Does Jake walk out or get carried out?